I have been doing like Flutter talks for a long time now, but this one is really special to me because like this is one of the first times that I'm able to actually talk to the audience, like to teach them about AWS Amplify with Flutter with a new example that I created off. Hopefully, at the end of the talk, you will learn something so I can consider myself, successful somehow. Okay, so first of all, who among you that I didn't meet before? Can you raise your hand? Nice, nice. You are lucky people because now you're going to ruin your lives. So my name is Salih. I have been a mobile developer for a long time, and since 2017, I've been doing Flutter apps. Like I was doing Flutter apps since it was in alpha stage, and in 2017, actually, we built an app called Key Meditation, and like back then it was Dart 1.0. Like you were a Java developer, you needed to put like new keyword everywhere and so on. It was horrible. So you should be thankful for the Dart that you have right now. And I'm based in Berlin, so it wasn't a big trip for me to be here. I just took a taxi and so on. And the funny thing is, like, we also started a Flutter Berlin community, which was around at the end of 2017 again. The idea was to, teach people about Flutter. And we might be one of the oldest meetups around the world. We are definitely the oldest in Europe. I have been a Flutter and Dart GD. GD is a title that everyone has a different meaning about. What I would say about GD is that GD basically means that I try to teach people about Flutter technologies. I go and give talks, I create blog posts and so on. I'm not the crazy knowledgeable person. I will definitely go and Google stuff and you ask me questions like a normal person. If you want to see something like that, you can talk to Simon Lightfoot. He is the one that is like a dictionary. Okay, so let's start off. What is Flutter? Yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we all know what Flutter is. Like, this is when I started off in 2017. That was my first slide all the time. What is Flutter? And when I was like, hey, can you raise your hands? Like, how many of you have heard of Flutter? At one talk, I had only one person out of 200 people room. So, seeing there's a conference right now about it actually, gives me goosebumps. So the actual topics that we're going to talk about is that we will talk about the ideas that we might have and the problems that comes with it. Then I will give you an introduction about AWS Amplify and tell you a bit about the idea behind it. Then I will mention about AWS Amplify Flutter libraries, what capabilities do they have. And lastly, I will tell you about how you can use this by showing a real example project. So first, let's start off with this one. Who among you knows this character? Okay, only two. Can you tell me? Exactly. This is Richie Rich. This person is extremely wealthy, and when he has an idea, he gets funded immediately, and he doesn't need to do fast things. Unfortunately, I'm not Richie Rich. I'm Salih. And I always have this $1 million idea in my mind that is definitely going to make me rich. As you can see, I look really rich. So my idea is like, okay, I want to build an app. I know how to build an app, but I'm not a backend developer. And as you all know, having an app that is only working on your device is not enough. And again, as not being rich, I don't have enough resources to build an application on the backend side. That's not how it works for me too. But I'm also an unrealistic person. I say that, okay, but I want to go to market as soon as possible because there might be some other Salih outside and saying that, hey, I will go to the market before this guy does. So what should I do? What would be the way to go? The way to go, the hero that we want to have in our side is called AWS Amplify. In the simplest way, we built AWS Amplify to make your life easier as front-end developers. You can be mobile developer, which you might be in this case. You can be cross-platform developer or web developer, it doesn't matter. The idea is to give you a chance to have an abstraction over cloud technologies. This way, you don't need to know about anything about cloud, but you can still power them with the libraries and the tools that we provide to you. To talk about it briefly, there are 3 tiers that we provide to you as AWS Amplify. The first part is full stack development. You can build your AWS backend by using a tool called Amplify Studio, which I will show you later on, and also something called Amplify CLI, which the name states a CLI tool to help you out with Amplify projects. The other side is the web side. If you have a web client, it can be a Flutter web app as well. You can host it on Amplify. Also, you can use the Amplify Studio to build your web applications. A person like me can use this one because it's a no-code tool, so it helps you out to have a regular React code if you don't want to have Flutter web. Lastly, we have the cross-platform and mobile part. That is the part that I work for in the company. I am responsible for the Android side and, of course, the Flutter side. What we do is we use something called Amplify libraries. This Amplify libraries is the gateway or the bridge between your application and AWS resources. It can be anything that you want. You can either use the resources that we provide to you, or you can use your own resources and just use the libraries as a way to connect. We have something called also UI components, which is a set of libraries that we give to you, and it will just take the resources that we provide, and with 1 or 2 lines of code, you will be able to have flows like authentication, storage, and so on. Yeah, the talk was so bad, they closed the door so no one else get affected, Yeah. All right, so as AWS Amplify, which platforms do we support? We support React, we support Vue and JS, like from the JS community, but I know that you're not here for this one. For the mobile side, we support Swift, native Android, and for me, the most importantly, Flutter one. So let's talk about Amplify Flutter. What I want to do right now is when I mention Amplify Flutter until this point, what would you expect it to do? What would be the to-do list that you would check off to reach the capabilities that you have? You can name any feature that you think that is okay, or basically, what would you expect from a product like this? Whoever gives an answer, I will give them a nice special edition sticker of mine. You can see that it is so beautiful, pixel art. And I will give a chocolate as well. Let's talk later on about the circumstances. Anyone has any ideas? Yes. User data management, perfect. Yes? No, you didn't raise. Too late. Yeah, you were, yeah. Authentication, perfect. You? Push notifications, you, sir? Okay, you? Database, perfect. You? Storage management, perfect. You, sir? Real-time updates. Everything is perfect. All of these are great answers, and in my mind, they are correct answers. So all of you, find me at the end. I will give you all chocolate and stickers. So, but don't worry, we still have a lot more chocolate to distribute. Okay, so Amplify Flutter libraries has an interesting story. Back in the day, they want to go to the market as early as possible. So what they did, they used the platform channels to connect from the Dart side and the native side. If you have used their libraries back then, they were not the best. I know, because I told the same thing in my interview as well. I said, you need to change this. And luckily they did. So for me, the idea of a Flutter supported library is you need to support all the Flutter platforms. It's not just mobile like nowadays, right? You need to have web, you need to have desktop as well. One thing that I have mentioned and the team also did was we need to have everything written in Dart, because Dart is enough, powerful enough to do this job. So this is what we did as well. And in 2022 October, we have released a new version of all the libraries that we support, which works on not only mobile, but also web and desktop. Lastly, what we want to do was extend the capabilities of the previous libraries. So we remember everything going on. We remember everything that has been said as a nice to have for a product like this. Let's see what kind of things that we support. First of all, we support authentication. All the authentication flow behind the scenes, it is using AWS resources, which is something called Cognito User Pools. We have GraphQL API. Thanks to the GraphQL API, behind the scenes, we are using something called AppSync. And thanks to that, you don't need to do anything magical. You can just listen to the changes on your GraphQL API and get real-time updates. We have REST API for simple REST API operations as well, in case you don't want to have GraphQL API and you don't want to deal with that. We have also storage. It is using S3 buckets behind the scenes and giving you a chance to host your files. And push notifications recently has been released. So now you can just send push notifications to your apps, and thanks to that, you will be using Amazon Pinpoint and you can target your audiences. In addition to everything that you mentioned, we also have analytics. Analytics give you a chance to see what your user is doing behind the scenes, and basically you can use this information to send push notifications, create your marketing strategy, whatever you think that is useful. In addition to all of this, we also have a UI library called Authenticator, which is a one line of code that helps you out to create authentication flows. All right, so far we have seen the capabilities of AWS Amplify, and we've seen more or less what AWS Amplify means at this point. If we take a step back, if someone asks you about what is AWS Amplify, what you can say is AWS Amplify is a set of tools that has been provided to the mobile developers, which is using AWS technologies behind the scenes. Nothing fancy, nothing magical. It is just an abstraction over the AWS technologies. So it scales up and down according to your needs, thanks to the AWS. All right, for using AWS Amplify, you need a couple of things. One of them is an AWS account. I mean, like any other thing, without an account, you cannot enter to console. You might be, I know everyone is thinking at the same time. You are thinking, hey, what about the AWS billing? Will I be billed like $60,000, euros? No, when you have an account, you will also have free tier that you can use in your project as well. So the second thing that you need is one of the tools that I mentioned. It's called Amplify CLI. Amplify CLI is the tool that we give you out for free to create, manage all of the AWS Amplify resources that you have. It is quite intuitive. It takes you through the processes. Also, it gives you a chance to write whatever you need exactly out of the box. For example, if you need an API, you can say Amplify add API. For storage, same thing. So whatever you need, you can name it with add, and it will do it for you. So today, I created a project with, how many of you know Flutter, a YouTube channel that is doing like UI challenges, Flutter? Okay, one person, nice. So if you haven't seen it, go ahead and see it. Like, he's doing a lot of UI challenges and so on. So I have came together with him and we created a special app for this event. So this is going to be a recipe app. The app is actually let me see if it starts. Yes, okay, you can see that you can create an account, you can sign in, you can use social sign-ins as well, like Google sign-in, Facebook sign-in, or Amazon sign-in, whatever you want to have. We don't have, someone asked me earlier on if we have Line messaging app sign-in. The answer is no, we don't. if your app is too reliant on that, then I'm sorry. You can see that we have a list of recipes. You can also keep some favorites. You can do a search for the items that you have here. Also, you can do the favoriting and unfavoriting there. And lastly, you can see the account details of the user. It is like one of the features that you would most likely do in almost every app. And for this one, I will be showing you how you can do those. So first, let's talk about initializing the project. For initializing the project for AWS Amplify, what you need to do is go to your root project and say Amplify init. This magic word is going to take you through an automated process. It will either suggest you some things like this or take you through one by one by asking you questions. In here, it says, this is your project name. You can name your project whatever you want. It says your default editor is Visual Studio Code. You can also change that one. And most importantly, it will understand this is a Flutter project. And thanks to that, it will create Dart files when it's needed and when there's a code gen happening. Once you do that, it will ask, how you would like to use your AWS account. Would you like to use the AWS profile, or would you like to use AWS tokens? In my case so far, or like whoever I talked to so far, AWS profile was the most common one, so I picked the AWS profile here as well. Lastly, which profile you want to have, because after you configure your AWS CLI or AWS Amplify CLI, you can have multiple accounts or one. It's totally up to you. Once you, this process mainly takes like a minute. You can just click on enter 3 times. Most likely it is working. And once it's done, now you have initialized. So from this GIF, I want you to guess what I'm going to add. Anyone has any idea? Yeah? Good job. Did I give you chocolate? No. Now you earn one as well. Congratulations. I know it's a big deal. Yeah. Yeah. I'm blushing. Yeah, we will add authentication with Cognito user pool now. For adding authentication, what you need to do is Amplify add auth. Like I mentioned earlier on, it's really intuitive. You need to think of what you're going to do. I want to add an authentication, so I do Amplify add auth. It will give you a couple of options. The default configuration will give you a chance to select the username, email confirmation, and the password rule that only asks for 8 characters or more. But you can also modify this if you want with the manual configuration, or if you want to have the social providers, you can go with default configuration with social providers. With the social providers, it's also going to ask you, for example, go to the meta.com and create a developer account and get me this token and so on. Like, it will take you through all the steps that you will have. And once you select any of these, it will say, okay, you're done. Everything is okay. This is the Cognito user pool name that you have. Now you're ready to go. So the next thing, what am I going to add here? Anyone has any ideas? Good job. Another chocolate. So for adding storage, what are we going to do? We will say Amplify add storage. Storage is used in S3 behind the scenes. So this means you do not have to only have images. You can have NoSQL databases that are held there as well. And thanks to the capabilities of the storage library, you can also hook up this with a Lambda function. This way, when there's a change in not just only file, but also in NoSQL database, you can fire off a Lambda operation and just connect it to whatever you want to do. I would still personally stick with the GraphQL API if you want to. I know it's not I know it's using DynamoDB and so on, but at least the cleanup would be happening on our end and you don't need to worry about it. Anyway, so once I select the content, it will say, hey, select a friendly name here. You can use the default one, which is going to be definitely unique, but also you can define your category, name of the label of the category as well. It's completely fine. One important point to mention here is that you can define authorization rules, like who should I have access to these files? Do you want only authorized users, authenticated users, or do you want to have also guest users? Because one big advantage of Cognito user pool with AWS Amplify is it gives you a chance to have out-of-the-box access for guest users, unauthenticated users. So you would still have the token or Cognito user ID for the guest, but you do not need to do everything that you would normally do. You can select anything. In the next step, it will ask what capabilities should they have. Is it creating, updating only, reading, deleting? You can define everything. You can see that it is intuitive. It asks you questions, so you can define whatever you need by answering the steps that you have. Once you do that, then you're done with the storage as well. So what am I going to add now? Who has any idea? Sorry? Exactly. So this is the data from Star Trek. So we are going to add Amplify add API. Amplify add API is going to give you 2 options. It can be GraphQL or REST API. GraphQL API is powered by GraphQL itself. So I want to ask, how many of you have heard or used GraphQL before? Nice. A lot of people. For the folks who have not used it, GraphQL is a query language that you can define the models and also define some queries that you do not have to get all the data structures that you have at once, but you can have more optimized version of the queries that you have. One big advantage of using GraphQL with AWS Amplify is you can write your own mutations and GraphQL queries in a way that you would be able to have like anything that you want to do. Like, for example, if you have super nested layouts and if you want to only have a username out of this nested layout, you can write your mutation, and at the end of the day, you would be able to have this working for you. All right, after I selected GraphQL, it is going to ask me to pick a template. The reason is that, like here, we have some folks who has no idea about GraphQL. So we are giving them a chance to see what are some complicated user scenarios, what are some simple ones. They can see how we create models, how we create authorization rules, and how you can change it. For example, if I don't select any of that, and if I select, for example, blank schema, what I would do for this app is I would create something called recipe. Can anyone read this one? Because this is not helping. All good? Perfect. So for creating a GraphQL model in GraphQL API for Flutter, what you need to do is you need to define the type, like define it as type, name, and you need to put an annotation called model. This will let Amplify CLI know that this is a model class. This is really important. I will show you the reason in a second. And afterwards, you will define the authorization rules. Like, who can access to this data? Should this be only me? Should this be the author, and if anyone who has an API key, token, whatever it is, or should this be public? For doing that, you can say allow, like we have here. If you want only the person who has created to have access to it, you will name it owner. The private will only keep it available for the folks who have been authenticated. If you want to keep it public, what do you think that you should call it? Exactly. Like I told you, it's super intuitive. You can see that we have some types that are not available in overall GraphQL. One of them is ID. This ID comes from AWS Amplify to give an ID to the model. We have classic primitive types like string, integer, float, whatever it is. But we also have a chance to create custom classes and enum types. So you can see that we have two things. One of them is duration. The other one is category. For creating enum, what you need to do is enum, name of the enum, and just put the categories there. So after you have all of these, now it is time to generate the models, because we have GraphQL and everything. It is perfect. However, we cannot and we should not just deal with the model classes from the GraphQL itself. So how do we do that? We do Amplify CodeGen models. Thanks to the Amplify CLI, and thanks to that, it understands this is a Flutter project. It will say, let's do Amplify CodeGen models. And this will create all the Dart model classes for you. So we have done everything so far, but we didn't do one thing. This is a hint. What didn't we do? Exactly. We didn't push it yet. So everything that we have done so far, it is local. But we haven't provisioned the cloud resources yet on the cloud side. So how do we push it? Anyone has any idea? Exactly. It's the intuitive side. Once you do Amplify a push, it will look at the status and say, hey, these are the things that you have created. And after you can say, if they are correct, you can just say yes and continue, or you can pass the flag of y, and say everything that you see, just say yes, and it will push everything and create and provision the files for you. But so far, we have done only the cloud provisioning and creating what is necessary to be used with our libraries, but we haven't touched libraries yet. So for using libraries, we have created, like I said, a new version of Dart libraries that we have. And for that one, what you need to do is you need to look for Amplify Flutter libraries. Right now, the version is 1.1.0. It is supporting everything with Dart 3.0. I will show you some of the things in a few slides so you can see it as well. And also, with whichever category that you want to use, you need to add that library as well. So at this point, we have, like, for example, Flutter, Auth Cognito, Amplify API. I think I forgot storage here. It's like Amplify Storage S3. And pardon me about that one. I must have forgotten. I will cry now. It's all right. Anyway, so like after we have all of these stuff, what we need to do is first we need to configure the Amplify libraries before we use any of them. Because once we generated and created and initialized the project in the Flutter side, we need to let the app know which plugins that we are going to use. Are we going to use authentication? Are we going to use API? Are we going to use storage? It is totally up to us to decide what we are going to be using. And once we add those libraries, we will say, okay, add those plugins to my system and also use the configuration file that has been generated to me by saying amplify configure. This way, with all the amplify add operations that you have done, this generated file already has enough information about what you have. So you don't need to do anything extra. You will just say that use the file that is created for me. Once it is created, what you need to do is you need to use them, obviously. So let's see how you can use the API part. So you can see that for querying the files that you have, what you need to do is you need to first create a query. It's called model queries. Model queries have two different types. One of them is list, the other one is the observe. So you can observe the changes like I have mentioned earlier on. You can see that you can define the type of the data you want to list or observe. And another beautiful thing is we have predicates. This means you can limit the data that you want to bring back. So for example, if you want to have only data in the enum category of like hour, then you can get it. And the crazy thing about that is that it doesn't happen on your device. It happens on the cloud side. So you do not do any work on the front end side. So once you have everything ready, like everything listed, once you run the query, you can either see the responses or results. It's totally up to you, but it's a feature. So it's a like fire and forget kind of thing. Once you have the result, you will see that you have a list of items that you have with the generated model format. So you do not also need to do parsing. You do not need to do any like assignment to the models as well. That's why you use the reference to the recipe here as like remote format, but also you are not creating anything extra as well. And next thing that I'm going to do is I will show you how you can update or create data. You've seen that I have favorited some of the things and it automatically saved up everything, right? So for updating or creating a data, first, what you need to do is you need to create the remote or like not the remote, but the generated model. So once you have the generated model, you will just say that, hey, I have a model mutation and I want to use the update format. If it's the create, then I will say model mutations.create. I'm not going to do anything extra. I'm not going to do something complicated. What I do is either update or create. And my libraries are smart enough to understand what's going on. So once I have that, I will pass the model that has been generated that I have created on. And once I pass that, it will know, it will do the like serialization, deserialization behind the scenes and pass it over to the API and do the saving for you. So you can see that we are following a like static method kind of flow here. And thanks to that, we are also able to go with the like self-sufficient way of like intuitive way of creating models. For uploading files to the storage, for example, you have any file picker that you can use. I love the file picker library a lot. It's easy to use and like thanks to their hard work, it works on all platforms. You can get a file path out of it, like in all the platforms. Once you have the file path, what you need to do is amplify the category name, in this case storage, and the operation that you want to have, the upload file. So once you have that file, what you need to do is, okay, I want to upload this file at this path. AWS file is a format that we give you, so you don't need to deal with extra operations. There is a big advantage of using storage because We are using S3 buckets behind the scenes, and it gives you a chance to pause or resume or cancel any operation that you have. So you can also see that there is on progress side, so you can know how much you have progressed as well. And for using these uploaded files, you can generate a URL with the token that you have, because as you might remember, you had some authorization rules that who can access the which data. So if you don't have the proper authorization method, then you will not be able to reach out to that. You can see that you can have guest, you can have private, you can have owner as well. Next thing that I want to show is how we can do the sign up flows. It is again super intuitive. Amplify auth sign up. Like I said, with the default configuration, you need to have email, password, and username. The username can be email as well. It is totally up to you. In here, one important point to mention is that you can save extra attributes like name or gender or birth date, whatever you have. And also, after all the updates, one of the things that we have is, for example, we have now is pattern matching. So according to the exception type that you have, you can use the pattern matching to have which kind of exception that you had earlier on and how you can create a user. Same goes for signing in as well. Amplify auth sign in, the way that you sign in the user. And you can see that same pattern matching is available here too. Getting user information is not something complicated as well. So what you need to do is amplify auth get current user. It will give you the user information like username and so on. You can also fetch the other attributes like the name or email or gender, whatever it is that you have decided to have as well. All of these are under a map, so you have a key and the value pair. You can update or do whatever you want with it. All right, so to slowly sum up, what we've talked about today is we talked about AWS Amplify. We talked about AWS Amplify CLI usage and how you can use it in your applications. We also talked about Amplify Flutter capabilities, like what are the things that you can do. You have defined the features and I've shown you it exists. And lastly, we have talked about how you can create the Amplify libraries with Flutter. Before I call it off, what I would like to do is I want to show you two things. One of them is the app. You can see that is not just a fancy app. For example, let's click on the sign up with Google. And okay. Let's do social sign in, hopefully. Never for this device. Okay, this is too secure. Yeah, that's me. Come on. It's not showing. All right. So yes, it's me. Now, yeah, got it. All right. Okay. Let's say no element. Oh my God. All right. So let's do a hot restart. Nice. The demo is broken. Yeah, I forgot to slay something for the demo gods. That's what happens. What does it say? I mean, it seems like we are already logged in. But okay, I will try one more thing along the way. Let me remove everything. Delete this app. And yeah, let's see one more time. If it works, then it works. If it doesn't, I will share the code anyway, so we can bash me together. Let's give it a few moments. I mean, I will do a login anyway with the email one so you can know that it is working. But the social sign-in, maybe I will use the Facebook instead. This is I need an elevator music right now, you know. All right, so first I will show you the sign-in with email. I have the safest password in case someone needs it. It's 128. So, it's great. So you can see that we have the user here. We have the user information. We have, for example, ways to remove things from here and so on. And lastly, we can log out. And one more time I will try. If it doesn't work, then I will slowly fade away. That's a lot. I'm not going to give that information. I will try this one more time. Set bad state no element. All right. Okay. I'm not going to do the debugging now. I will show you later on. But overall, let's go back to the slides. Maybe I shouldn't have done it. Anyway, so we have talked about like all the things in here, and luckily the app is not public yet, so you will see it later on. So that's all for today, everyone. Like, thank you very much for like listening everything in. There are some resources that I have here for you. Like, we will make the video of the app that I have shown you earlier on, so you can trust me that it's working. And we have the Amplify documentation. We have another example app called Grocery List. It has all the resources and documentation as well in case you want to have a hands-on experience. And lastly, if you have any questions or something, do not hesitate to like contact me over social media or like email, whatever you feel comfortable. I will be here forever because I live in Berlin, but I will be here at the conference until the end of Friday. And we have time for questions, right? Yes. So if you have any questions, I'm here. Thank you very much for listening.